Ladies, gentlemen, dark friends, dragon sworn, and white cloaks, all y'alls, thank you so much for joining us this evening for your weekly dose of madness. You
Madness.
are all familiar with the gig by now. My name is Josh. I am your Tsorvan Mahale.
My name is Daniel, and I'm your Ammon Khan Mahale.
And I am Andrew, your pajama hell.
And we are the boys in black. We wear black coats because it's cool and slimming. No,
I
we don't
wear
care
my
that it's hotter in
black
the summer.
coat at night.
We love the way we look in it, and that's why we do it. But as you know, we don't talk about fashion on this show. We talk about the Wheel of Time because this is a Wheel of Time podcast where we discuss all things wheels and times. Now, before we jump into the real meat of the show, hey, who wants to slap on some protection?
I mean,
Wants
if,
to
if
is
I
such a
got to,
strong word.
if I needs to, I suppose I can.
It's the responsible thing to do, gents.
It is. You're not wrong.
And if we were a podcast in the 1990s, first off, we wouldn't exist because podcasting wasn't a thing in the 90s. And second off, we'd be telling people all about getting protection because that was a big thing to do in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. But
Was it?
for your
yeah.
ear holes, in terms of what we're talking about this time, if you have not completed the Wheel of Time series, that means all the way through A Memory of Light. Specifically, definitely from A Crown of Swords through A Memory of Light. But if you got it that far, you've already read the first one, so there's real reason to exclude them. But if you haven't finished the series, you're at risk of being spoiled, though you can get away with not having read New Spring yet. That won't be spoiled.
Especially because Andrew hasn't even read it, so he's definitely not going to spoil you.
Just shut your mouth hole. But you're right.
Make me.
Give me a couple months.
What's in a couple months? By John Mahale?
The month of October.
Whoa,
a little more than a couple.
October?
I think it's like a few.
Is there something special happening in October?
Are you Barney?
Yeah. Hey, kids.
Okay, now you're crusty.
I don't care. Whatever one I am.
No, I like it. It's good stuff.
But yeah. So as everybody
Tell
knows,
us about the madness.
yeah, we're going to be gathering the madness at the Gathering Madness world situation allowing from October 16th through October 18th in Ogden, Utah. So we, based off everything we're seeing and planning on, assuming we're still able to hold the event's admission is still free. So really all you have to do is get yourself there, get yourself somewhere to stay.
Show up.
And that's for the vast majority, that's it. You know,
There's going to be games. There's going to be foods. There's going to be a Dragon Sworn hangout, little clubhouse action.
Little clubhouse.
And there's going to be drinks. And there's going to be fun.
I don't know what else you could ask for.
Well, fun is actually a requirement. The Lord Dragon
specifically requested it.
Specifically required fun.
Why is no one having fun? I specifically requested it.
I specifically requested it. No, but October, that is the month to mark on your calendars. And then, if you feel so inclined, I believe Matt from the Dusty Wheel is also doing an event in November.
Oh.
So, as cool as Matt is, you know you want to come to ours and then go to his.
I mean, just like every Wednesday, you come to ours and then go to his.
It's true, and that's okay. We understand. As a matter of fact, I think that's what we're going to do tonight. is we're going to just leave
Probably.
our own podcast. We're going to have like 30 minutes of dead air.
Go and check it out, see what's going on.
No, October's going to be awesome. Come, October. Come. And have fun with us, and drink with us, and eat with us, and sing songs with us, and meet other Wheel of Time people in real life with us.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's going to be a blast.
So this week, well, last week, if you tuned in, because I know you did, because you're all faithful listeners, and we truly love that about you. But last week we discussed Aviendha. Aviendha is Bay. We love Aviendha. Aviendha is where it is.
She's the bee's knees.
She is the bee's knees. And we discussed sort of the first part of Aviendha's journey from Spear Maiden to Wise One Apprentice. I think part 2 of Aviendha can be summed up as from Wise One Apprentice to full on Wise One. Because that's kind of the transition she makes here.
Yep, that's it. All right, guys, this has been another exciting episode of the Black Tower Podcast.
You guys have a fantastic. I think Andrew wanted to talk about her crossing her arms.
I mean, wherever she crosses them, so.
I mean, she does it
I don't
a lot.
really care where she crosses them. You know, there's just every person has those things that just really gets them. And crossing of the arms with a stern IL stare.
There it is, right there. There it is, right there. You heard it here
Have
first.
you seen my my new name on Twitter?
No, so we're
Stern
like,
IL
specifically.
Have you seen my new name on Twitter?
Was that
Yeah.
your new name on Twitter? I have not.
No.
Is it something to do with Steve?
It is not.
Good.
Dang it. I
I
have
was
actually
gonna say
been
you could go fuck
remodeling
yourself.
my
but-
office all day, so I haven't even been. I haven't hardly even been on social media. I saw the news about Jeffrem Bornhold
Who?
when I sat
Oh
down.
yeah,
For
I saw
lunch.
it at work in between. So guys, if at least myself and Josh, I don't know about Danielle, but if we sound kind of low energy, it's because it's been busy. It's been a busy fucking day. Josh doing his remodeling and everything, and
But that's why I've got my
Me too.
trusty friend Sailor Jerry here with me to help give me
Sailor
that extra pep
Jerry,
in
you
my
are a
step.
friend of mine. I like to drink you with a little slice of taint. Just slice a little.
I thought the Sailor
Yeah,
Jerry
with a
was-
slice of taint means there's a little bit more Sailor Jerry.
Nice.
Guys,
A little bit
No,
more.
no.
So
Oh
you're
my God,
drinking
no.
it straight?
Sailor Jerry and a Sailor Jerry
creator
snipe card.
blind me, no. But no, it was a long ass
No,
day at work. We've got one of the networking guys got a new job, which kudos to him. It's doubling like his fucking annual salary. So he's leaving, which means he's in a mad rush to
Nice.
finish off his
pretty
active projects. So I can't really get him to help me do the stuff that I need him to help me do. And then another one of the field techs, like tomorrow is his last day. So we're going to wind up with like all of his tickets pushed off on the two of us that remain, because the main boss for the office, she's teleworking through next week, I believe, because her son is undergoing an operation. So she's minimizing COVID exposure. And the other guy that's kind of like the acting boss,
Fucking
he's
A,
always like got a ton of fucking tickets because he takes every ticket he can, and you know he's getting overloaded when he starts assigning us fucking support tickets, which he like did today. I came in today, I already had like 6 or 7
Nice.
tickets that were already active that I was working on, and he threw like another 3 or 4 on me, and
Woohoo!
fucking customers don't know how to answer the fucking phone or be where they say they're gonna. Yeah, as far as work goes for today, fuck that.
This is a tip for all of you non-IT people out there. If you call in a help desk ticket, if you would like that help desk ticket to be resolved, you must be available for said
Look,
help
if it's
desk technician to resolve your issue.
I'm gonna throw out there, if you call up any customer service anywhere, not just IT,
if it's
you must
important
be
enough for you to call
available
and
for
say,
that
"Hey, I need
customer
help. I
service
need this
person.
fixed," then you damn sure better be willing to be there when you say you're going to be there and answer the phone when we call and that kind of shit. Because otherwise, you don't look that important and you go to the bottom of the fucking list. Like I put my first like 3 tickets that I had that were top priority for
Yeah.
me got put to the bottom because I can't get in contact with anybody. So they're going to come in and be like, "Yeah, I need this ready." And it doesn't help that it's a holiday weekend, at least in the US, because now people they're rushing to put in their tickets and get their stuff fixed before nobody's there
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's like that's not the way it works.
Happy America Day,
Well, I mean, yeah.
everybody.
But I mean, I'm like,
it'll
that's
be
not the way
America
this
Day when
fucking
we
works.
listen to
Like, don't
this.
put in your fucking support request at the very last second because then you're just going to be stuck with nothing.
No, that's
I mean, for them, yeah, not for me.
exactly how
I
it
just
works
get like a
over
bunch of fucking tickets and nastygram emails because I'm so busy working with other tickets, I don't see the new tickets come in, and they're left in an open or work in progress status, and the bosses don't like that.
here. Well, there is.
Yeah.
The
But
bosses
anyway,
definitely do
we're
not
here
like
to
that.
talk
Can
about Wheel of
vouch for
Time,
that.
which will put us all in better moods.
But
It will have a placebo effect on the achy muscles, the annoyed, tired brain, and migraines, the itchy taint. Yeah,
oh, it's going to placebo the fuck out of
yeah.
our muscles.
Which I didn't even go into work
that
on
itchy
Monday.
taint.
Oh,
Why does your taint itch?
Oh
I
yeah.
could-
See, this is
I
some
can
sympathy
feel
for
the
you, Josh,
Sailor
because you're
Jerry
talking about like
already
you're having
placeboing
like
my
muscle
muscles.
spasms in your back, like because I've got back problems too.
This is terrible.
I was helping my roommate over the weekend, like doing yard work and stuff,
Yeah,
and that's the entire like I
yeah.
didn't even go
Yeah,
into
that
work
was my
Monday.
fun.
Like I literally just told him I was like something came up, but I literally couldn't get out of bed because my back was so fucked. Yeah. Yeah, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Once you hit 23,
Good
it's all
times.
just
Hey,
fucking
that's what
down.
happens when you get old.
The military prematurely ages you. But you know what doesn't prematurely age you?
Yeah,
An amazing
that's right.
IL wise one.
That's right. Talking about
Taint.
ladies
Oh, yeah.
you love from
So,
your favorite fantasy series of all time.
I think
So where do we leave off?
we
with
left off
Avi last
after
time?
uh
I can't
after
remember
Aviendha
exactly
had
where we
arrived in
left off.
Saladar and was like, I'm gonna go with Elaine and Nynaeve to Abu Dar. And I think that's did we get through the conversation
Oh,
that
that's right.
Elaine and Aviendha and Min wind up having? Did we get through that part? Okay. So we got through like Elaine
Yes.
and Aviendha formally becoming fur sisters.
Yes.
Oh, we did. So we covered.
No,
I was about to say. So we covered
we didn't
Veins
get
of
to
Gold.
the big thing.
Yes. No,
Okay.
no. We did not get to there. That's actually significantly later. Because Min and Elaine and Aviendha all have the conversation. We got through the Bowl of the Winds.
Yeah,
is where we got through.
Okay.
So we have not yet hit Veins of Gold.
Okay. Because Veins of Gold. That's one of those like. That's one of those big moments,
Yeah.
right? That's commonly referred to as one of the biggest moments in the books.
I mean, it's a bit of a
personally
power
don't
move by
understand.
Elaine.
I think it's a cool moment.
Like,
I don't think it's one of the
so
biggest.
we all know like Elaine, Aviendha,
I mean, you're
and
not
Min
wrong.
get together. They have this talk about like I love him too, and it essentially culminates in this I love him enough to share him.
Yeah, but I love
kind
him
of thing.
too.
It's like not something that's alien or weird or out of the normal for Aviendha. Elaine seems to be doing this kind of quasi want to embrace elements of IL culture.
Well, I think one of the biggest, most important aspects to remember here, because I mean, I won't lie, dude. My 15-year-old brain reading these books, was like, you married 3 women. First off, no. That's not an exciting thought. Second off, it is the important thing to remember here is that Rand himself was still following Lon's advice and being like, no, I can't marry anyone. I'm going to die. And if I get married, oh, they're just going to be sad that I killed him. And so he's still got this kind of emo thing going on where he's like, no, where I'm not ever getting married. It's not happening. And Avienda, Elaine, and Min all independently decide. At first, they decided we're going to love Rand no matter what. Doesn't matter. I love him, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to love him. And then Elaine and Avienda get to know each other really well. Min and Elaine get to know each other pretty well. As a matter of fact, Elaine even sends Min to Rand and is like, okay, you go take care of him because I'm busy here. And she's, really sad, but, she's at the same time, she's like, okay, whatever. I really respect Min and we're going to figure this out. And then Avienda is like, hey, by the way, this is cool with Aiel people. And Elaine's like, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And so Elaine and Avienda become first sisters. I'm paraphrasing and skipping over a lot. The main point is that the three of them are the ones who made the decision. No, we're definitely doing this. This is happening. None of us, all of us, respect and love each other enough that we wouldn't want to deprive the other of that love that we so desire. So we're going to make this work between us. And I don't know. I just think that's a real important distinction because anybody can read it and go, oh, yeah, there's one dude chasing after 3 women. What a jerk. And Rand even feels a lot of that throughout the progression of the story.
Oh, and every time he does anything with one of them, he's like, motherfucker!
He feels guilt over messing with the rest of them. Yeah.
I'm not sure that Elaine is ever going to forgive me for this and whatnot. And then, of course, we all know how that turns out.
Something that I don't think we did mention that did happen way earlier was the events with the events at the docks in Kyrian. When Lanfear steps out holding the literal flesh shell of a man in his face, like, who the fuck is Avienda?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Avienda was like...
That's Fires of Heaven,
she
chapter
took Rand's B
52.
Card.
Yeah, because this
Lanfear finds out.
Again, we gave out the spoiler warning. This is the attack that Moraine saw, that they had to go to the docks, and that if they did go to the docks, as far as she could tell, she would at least disappear from the visible world, quite possibly die. I think she had an idea of exactly what was going to happen, but she knew that there was a good chance that it would result in her death.
Well, sort of.
She
knew they had to go to the docks, and if I remember correctly, and from my reading and whatnot, she actually knows that it can go one of 3 ways.
Yes.
And if it goes the one way, Rand just murders Lanfear, and he's fine with it. And he's just like, cool, Lanfear's dead. But if he doesn't do that, then one of them has her dying, and one of them has her disappearing from the mortal plane for a certain amount of time. And so she goes, cool, so hopefully option 1, but possibly option 3, because I'm not just going to die.
Right. Well,
I am Moraine Damodred, and I don't go lightly into that abyss.
I can't imagine Avienda's face. Like, it's one thing because Aiel are all about, you never show your emotions because, showing your emotions,
masculinity.
Well, but it's even the same with With the shield maidens, you don't show your emotions. You don't show people you're afraid. You don't show people you're uncomfortable. You're always
I
confident, controlled, cool, and in control of the situation.
Indeed. I just want to
So,
throw out there before you keep going. In what world do the shield maidens not have toxic masculinity?
I mean, you're probably right there.
Like
I mean,
they
it's
literally picked
we
up
have that event
spears so
happen
they could be like,
where
cool, toxic masculinity.
Avienda
That
almost
was it. That was the only
shits the
reason.
bed because of
Right?
Forsaken knows her name and is pissed as fuck. Um,
Well, and that's where I was going with that. Is Landfear, like, first off, Landfear is one of the most terrifying Forsaken. She's one of the Forsaken that's like most uh, referenced when trying to scare other people. She is a nasty, nasty, nasty bitch. And all of a sudden, you're at the docks, and just paint the picture. You're at the docks, chilling, everything's cool. All of a sudden, there's an explosion, and someone steps out of the explosion, apparently, basically unscathed, holding the still
yeah,
bloody
that's nightmare
skin.
fuel.
Not anything else, just the skin of a person
Yeah.
screaming your name.
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw
I,
the
I would
worst
I
ever
would pee
meme
my
about
I
that
would
today
ink.
that I will
I
not
would
reiterate
definitely ink.
currently.
Aw, you made me
Um,
ink.
Yeah,
yep,
that's
just so you know.
exactly where that would
But
go.
then yeah, just 3 chapters later,
He just wants everyone
Avienda
to know that he's
actually
soft.
dies
Yeah. Just
along with
FYI,
Matt and
everybody.
Asmodee until Rand pulls the best Rand maneuver that goes on forever, especially after this
Yes, that
point,
is a fact.
and Bale fires the ever living shit
They
out of
all
Ravine
die.
back to the point where they're still alive. So
Yeah.
Robin!
Oh God. You know what? That part actually. Oh, I get off on the whole. So I hate the time travel mechanism. Okay. So much. There's only two movies that I've absolutely loved time travel in. One is Back to the Future. And the reason I love that is because it's like, first off, it's so ridiculous. But second off, it's like, it's so good with how they do the time travel and how they do like the ripple effect through time, blah, blah. It's just fun to watch. The second one
And I
is,
mean, anytime that you end up using a unit of measurement like gigawatts, like that's just
right,
fun.
you're a winner for sure. The second thing I think it works is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like that whole movie just gives me a happy like anybody could ever imagine. Okay, and I love it.
Whoa.
I hate the time travel mechanism so much that even watching Avengers Endgame, when they were like, "We're going back in time," I was like, "Son of a bitch!" Now, don't get me wrong. I think they did a great job with it. I loved that movie, but I was just a little bit like deflated that they used time travel. Now, that should illustrate to you how much I hate time travel mechanisms within stories. I feel like they're cheap cop outs. However, balefire is such an interesting thing. It kind of skirts the issue, right? It's kind of a time travel mechanism, but it's kind of not a time travel mechanism. Also, I cannot speak, so I must have
Apparently not.
accent in order to speak a little bit better and more clearer. Balefire has the best time manipulation mechanism I have ever seen in a fantasy series. And I realize that this
tell us
is a
how you
show
really
about
feel.
Aviendha and not about Balefire, but you're here for the tangents, so fuck off. The If you balefire someone with like a teeny teeny tiny amount of balefire, their whole body disappears. Their thread is burned out of the pattern, and they may any influence or impact they had on the world for the last 3 seconds goes away, reverses, because they were no longer within the pattern in order to affect those changes, and therefore, you know, those things have to revert back. We see this when Moghedian balefires the shit out of Aviendha or
Nynaeve.
Nynaeve's boat, and all of a sudden, Lon's like, "Hey, I was just coming to your boat, and all of a sudden, you were like a half a mile up the river. Like, what the hell?"
You were way in front of us, and then all of a sudden, your
All
boat
of a
was
sudden, you were way
behind us.
behind us, and it's because Moghedian used so much balefire that she moved the entire ship and possibly some of the water back in time, essentially, because balefire burns. The more balefire you use, the further it burns that thread back. And so Ravine is attacking and killing people indiscriminately. And I'll never forget the first time I read this when Matt, because they do this whole thing about, oh yeah, all three of them have to be there at the last battle and blah 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 blah. And if you haven't read this yet, you've got the spoiler warning, okay? I will not take any responsibility for spoiling this because this is a pretty big moment. Ravine kills, straight up murders Matt and Aviendha and a slew of other people that are important to the story. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, no, what the hell is going on? Fuck this book, right? I'm having all the feels. And then Rand just unleashes this unholy torrent of balefire at him, burns him back, like probably several hours at this point in time. And then Matt and Aviendha and everybody else are like, oh, what the hell was that?
Well, I love how they're like, it's absolutely a moment where they're like,
all
right, cool, let's get Ravine. And he's like, yeah, it kind of already happened.
That's what it is
like,
now. It is the
to
jizz bar of
you,
undoing.
no time has moved. But to me, it's been like 45 minutes.
It is. I like it.
Well, that's actually an interesting thing that while you were talking, one of the things that you just brought up is actually a very interesting piece of this to me. So it's talked about in the Wheel of Time that people are threads in the pattern, right?
Si, senor.
It is not very well described in any way, shape, or form that anything else but people are threads in the pattern, right? They don't talk about boats being threads in the pattern. They don't talk about animals being part of the pattern or like threads in the pattern. They don't talk about, inanimate objects being threads. So when Moghedian balefires the boat, she, like, on some level, either one of two things is true. Either the boat and the inanimate objects in the Wheel of Time are actually represented as threads, and when she hits the boat with balefire, it goes backwards. Or she hits the boat driver with a ton of balefire, and his influence on the boat goes back a bunch.
This sounds like a piece of Watt candy.
It does, and I'm very curious as to like the thought process on that.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll do our next pre-show recording, which is available to our Patreon users. We will suck on a bit of Watt candy known as effects of balefire on inanimate objects.
Indeed.
And in case you don't really know, so that's kind of the pre-show recording is for our Patreon users. If you love the show and would like to contribute to its progression
for less than a quarter a day, you can indulge your ear holes in some extra taintiness
and helping the show out.
Indeed.
Like, literally, you can listen to it for like $1 a month. Not even like it's.
And we all know.
Well, I can't say exactly because
ear holes.
now Patreon has to charge taxes and stuff on shit because laws.
It's true.
But for pretty much $1 a month, US dollar, not Canadian dollar.
Screw you, taxes.
Because taxes.
I think we should do one of
I
those
feel like
starving
I
children's
feel like there's a fine line
commercials.
for
You
how
know, they
that could
do it in
go.
the style
It
of
could
a
either be
starving
like
podcast.
super insulting or super funny,
Starving
and I'm not
podcast.
exactly
Be
sure
really
which
funny.
way it would go.
For the price of one fake beard.
I'm not exactly sure.
Honestly,
we'd have to
it
probably
would
have to do it.
have
With
to
Sarah
be. It would
McLachlan?
absolutely have to be the same way of like that particular commercial parody.
All right,
We'd have to do Sarah McLachlan playing in the background.
fine.
No, not Sarah
We'll do Benny
McLachlan.
Hill.
That's not a starving children commercial. That's a dogs being
'Cause that
murdered
inflicts
commercial.
much pain and sadness on the soul. Yeah, I mean,
Or just a
it's one
dollar
of
a
those
month.
things, like,
You can support
if you look at one
a starving
kind of overview of
podcaster.
Avienda's life,
So Aviendha,
it seems like
Who's probably
so
not
it
a
seems like
starving
everything
podcaster.
happens back to back. But then whenever you start breaking it down by events, by book, by chapter, there is a lot of stuff that happens that's in between things we may not realize. I mean, it's just like, you know, if you're just trying to do this all from memory, which I half am, because I deliberately stopped my reread right before the last battle chapter of Memory of Light, because I need to just devote an entire segment of my life to that, so that I can 100% fully enjoy it. And today was definitely not that day. One, because I was busy, and two, because it's not the best
Oh, yeah.
fucking day.
that's a commitment.
There will be a day when Andrew finishes his reread that he will
But it
feel
is
It takes me
not
7 hours to
obliged
read the last battle. I've
to
really gotten
spend an
bad at reading.
entire hour or 3 or 7 on the last battle.
Yeah,
but it is not
That's
this
true. All
day.
right, that's fair. But anyway, so like in between this time,
I mean,
Or you're
not
just
if you're
feeling a lot of
savoring
things.
every single word.
a gentleman's fight.
So Aviendha, I would like
So I
to
was
say
going to talk about.
Go
So
ahead.
before,
No, you go ahead.
Make me Daddy Daniel.
No, you hang up first.
Stop it. Both of you, stop it.
Oh, my
You're
bad.
embarrassing yourself.
But we've talked about this. I think when we talked about
Whoa,
Giotto a while
it is
back,
Daddy
quite a while
Davro.
back
Don't
now.
you dare.
But it's one of the interesting conundrums that Aviendha finds herself within her own culture's creation. And this is in, namely, Lord of Chaos, chapter 19, because she's trying to reconcile how to meet her toe to Elaine and Rand. And she basically goes through this internal monologue and this dialogue of the only way to meet my toe is to, like, on one hand is to kill you, but on the other hand to save you. And she's like, if I do one, it meets my toe for the other, but it increases my toe. Like, if she does one thing, it meets her toe for Elaine, but it increases her toe to Rand, and vice versa. She's like, there is no fucking winning. And ultimately, what we see in Winter's Heart,
Right.
and Path of Daggers, and then Winter's Heart, to be chronologically correct. I think is Aviendha being, I can't say finding a way, but being blessed with a way that allows her the opportunity to finally meet the toe that she feels she has to Elaine and Rand. Because what her toe doesn't take into account is just how understanding and forgiving and maybe secretly conniving Elaine really is. Because Elaine makes sure that we all know we're getting to where the three of them bond Rand as their warders. Elaine makes it a point to make sure that they are all bonded.
Yeah.
Before she has the happy, fun, sticky time with Rand.
Right.
Happy, fun, sticky time. I'm gonna change my Tinder
which is a
profile
great
Please,
scene.
to include
please
that.
never call it that ever again, especially around another human woman
No,
I'm gonna put that
or
on my Tinder
human
profile
man.
now.
I don't care. Like we're very inclusive here in this
That's what I'm gonna
podcast.
say.
Please
We can
just
have the
never say
happy,
that
happy,
around
fun,
another
sticky
human
time.
being. If you want happy,
do it.
sticky fun times, please don't call it happy, sticky fun
You know,
times.
the really bad thing is, without context, you could be ordering from a Chinese food restaurant as well.
I don't know what Chinese food restaurants you're ordering from, but please stop.
So Avienda goes to Saladar. She kneels before
Just
Elaine and
not
says,
even doing this
"You can use
time.
the knife or the switch, but I have toe because I boned the dragon." And
Because I
Elaine's like,
rode the dragon.
"Okay, so that's a thing that happened." She's totally diplomatic about it, and she goes, "Oh, Avienda, you have no toe with me, but let's get to know each other a little bit and let's figure out what's going on." Because Elaine already knows from Min's viewings that there will be three, and so
I mean, I don't think it's
she goes,
something
"Oh, so this is
alien
the third."
to
And she's extremely
the
diplomatic and
culture of
extremely, I would
nobility,
say,
because we see all
wise
throughout, like,
about
take
it.
just about any fantasy series that
Because
features nobility and their personal lives in depth. Well, not just about any, but a fair number, where you have the king and the queen, or the prince and the princess, or whatever, and they have their things. But then, you always at the point where the queen's like,
yeah,
I know you have mistresses, and I want you to know I also have sidearm candy.
yeah,
And, the king or the queen is like, don't give a shit, you know. But normally it's like they're too
I have
noble. Like,
mysteries.
our marriage is more for nobility and power, versus this where
Yeah.
it's
No,
it's a
I
true
see
bonding,
that.
it's a true marriage. But Elaine already has the relationship with
Yeah.
Avienda to be like, if it was anybody else, I would murder you. At least
Yeah.
it's somebody I know.
Yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think
But
at
in the
one point in
back of her
time
mind, she's
Elaine is
like,
like
whenever I get
happy.
him,
She's like,
you're
"Oh,
gonna
good, it's
feel
Avienda.
every
Whew,
last inch of it.
it's somebody I know and somebody I like."
You're gonna get yours, bitch.
Yes, exactly.
Thrust.
And
But you weren't far off.
you both answered with
It was
like
the
the
last.
worst.
We really did. I tried to finish his
It was the last
sentence. And
last
it
second
did-
thought. That
I
changed me
wasn't.
from
We both had
thrust
the
to inch,
same
which
spirit
sounds
of
weird
the
to
sentence.
say.
It just wasn't the exact
So-
same word.
Yeah. You guys are
No,
are on
I
the
like
same
it.
page. That's cute. So Elaine and
It's like we're
Avienda stay
bonded.
together. They become first sisters, which is an interesting thing.
They bond each other.
They basically bond each other, but this one is, God, guys, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of creepy to read. Like, this scene always kind of creeps and weirds me out because,
Por qué?
well, you've got Elaine and well, okay, let me take this back. I like the ceremony up until a certain point. They have to get naked and show up to the ceremony naked, which is like cool. I get it, whatever. They have a pretty good explanation for it. It's got to be more important than anything else. So you got to face your greatest shame in the moment, and you don't get to decide when you're born, so you don't get to decide when it happens. So blah 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 blah. So Elaine's actually in a meeting with Dylan, and Mazrim Taim actually is even there with a couple of Ashaman. And all of a sudden, the wise one shows up, and she's like, "Hey, it's time."
It's time.
And she's like, "Okay, let me say goodbye to everybody." And they're like, "No, strip." So she's like, "Fine." So she strips down, she pieces out, and Taim's like, "Ashaman about face," and he's like super like, "What the hell is going on?" And he's irritated more than anything because
Well, and he's also a
he's
big
being
ass
slighted.
creep about it.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, he is. He's like checking out the dragon's lady because at this point in time, I think he has suspicions. I don't think he knows, but I think he has suspicions. But he's all checking out the dragon's lady, tells the other Ashman to turn around. She walks out, she's giggling because she's like, "Oh, if you did this to me, what did you do to Avienda?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's for Avienda to tell you." It's hilarious when they become first sisters because one of the things is, what is it that you most think is most amazing about your near sister? And they both speak, but you can't hear anything, but she can see the weaves. And Elaine is like, "Ooh, these weaves are interesting." And she's like trying to learn everything she can about the weaves. And then they speak out the words, and Avienda says that Elaine is the bravest woman she's ever
And
met,
everybody's like,
blah, 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 blah. And
And
that's super
Elaine's like,
sweet. Now, what do you
Avienda's the
hate?
bravest woman
yeah,
I've ever met.
And they don't
and it
they
was
don't
really
And
hold
they're
cool.
back.
both
Because I
like,
think even
And
Avienda
then I
tells
love,
Elaine, like, you can't hold back if we're going to be true first
what I
yeah.
sisters. You got to
hate
be
about it.
brutally honest.
Yeah.
And you know somewhere in there it's got to be, she fucked my
Oh,
man,
they
that
don't.
fucking bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're escorts. Their escorts say that. They say if you
Yeah.
can't be honest with your first sister, you can't be honest with anybody. So you need to be brutally honest. And at one point, in Avienda, I think mentions that Elaine is always so quick to give a little smile and a little wink. And it's so annoying that she uses her beauty for everything. And that she
And
even like
especially
goes
since
after
she likes
sweets.
candy too
Yeah,
much,
she
so it's
likes to
all
eat
gonna fade and
candy.
she's
She's
gonna
gonna
get
be
fat.
fat. Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, holy
It was
shit,
like, dang, that
Avienda.
was brutal. And then Avienda gets pissed off because Elaine's like, "Well, Avienda thinks every stupid little problem needs to be solved by a knife. It's so stupid that every single time we're running problems, Avienda's grabbing her knife."
Eh, eh.
And it
And
was
my
great.
knife.
And my, yeah, right. Hey, I see what you did there. And then
Always grabbing everybody's
Yeah.
knives
he
with
just be
no
grabbing the
thought
Pimp
of
smack the
knives.
who
shit
she's
out of each other.
hurting.
And then like at the end of that, they're like, "Now slap her." Okay, cool. Elaine like draws back and slaps Avienda, and Avienda slaps Elaine harder, and they're like, "Again." And Elaine, like, she doesn't even hold back. She's like, "Bam!" She just pow, whacks her. And then Avienda's like, "All right, bitch, let's do this." And she just smacks the shit out of her. And then they like forgive each other and they hug each other. It's cool. And then this is the part that creeps me out though, is that they end up like through the series of events, they end up blacking out and waking up. There's like this birthing scene where they like see this light and they end up like waking up like curled up together in this woman's lap. Like I don't think I can't remember if they say they're actually suckling or not, or if they're just kind of in the
I don't
position.
think they are.
I hope they're not. I don't think they are. If you're listening
Tell us how
along,
wrong we
like
are,
feel free
because
to leave us a
Creator
comment.
knows the rest of the
Shoot
world
us an
well,
email at Black Tower Pod. Leave us a
which is
comment on
fine.
Instagram. Leave us a comment on Twitter. Get a hold of us in any of these ways. Please
I don't think they were
correct me.
suckling.
I do not like the image of Avienda and Elaine suckling a wise one's breast. And I think at one
That's a
point in time
part that
she
I don't
says,
personally remember.
"I have given birth to many babies," and it's just like, ugh, that's creepy. Anyway, they wake up and they're first
I
sisters
do.
after that. They're like, "Yay, we're first sisters." And they have, it's kind of like the Warner Bond where they have an awareness of each other and sort of an emotional inventory of each other. And it's cool, but at the same time, it's a little
Oh, yeah.
weird how they do it. But it's cool. And from that
Joined
point
at the
on,
dragon.
Elaine and Avienda are besties, joined at
Inseparable.
the hip. And it's shortly after that that Rand joined at the dragon.
Jesus Christ.
Shortly
This is why
after
we can't
that,
have nice
because at
things.
this point in time, Elaine is vying for the throne, and Avienda's there to help any way she can, but she's also she's learning Wetlander customs because she's going to be one of the links between the two worlds.
So glad you got the
And
reference.
oh my god, you ready to go? 'Cause I'm ready to go. Yeah, that's a great song. I don't even care. Power Man 5000. I know you guys listen.
But anyway,
I mean, if you'd like to orchestrate some
I'm
intro
about to have
music
to go
for us,
refill
I'd be
my
down.
my chalice, my plastic red Solo cup
I can
hashtag
feel the rum
Southern
kicking in, and I'm
Redneck
happy.
chalice.
No, but anyway, dude, go refill your chalice.
I
Nice.
have not.
Or you could do like from the movie The Court Jester. Another tangent. The chalice with a figure of a palace. Have you heard that? You know this sketch? Daniel, are you
No,
familiar?
I have no idea.
Oh my God. So at one point in time, through a series of events, the court jester has been faux knighted, and he must,
Yeah,
I
that's
shit
exactly
you
why.
not,
You
he
Googled
must fight
McElwain one
Sir
time and saw this
Griswold
shit.
of McElwain. Yeah, my last name is
This is why
McElwain.
you know this show. This thing.
What? And well, it's a it's a Danny Kaye movie, so my grandparents were huge Danny Kaye fans, and so it kind of dispersed down. But at one point in time, so he's got no chance to beat this guy. And one lady comes
You
up to him and
think?
says, "Don't worry, you don't have to fight him because I've put a pellet of poison in one of the goblets." And he goes, "Oh, okay, which one?" And she goes, "It's in the chalice with a figure of a palace." And he goes, "Okay." And so she says, "But don't drink the chalice with a figure of a palace. Drink the vessel with a figure of a pestle." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So it leads to this big thing where he says, "Okay, so the pellet with the poisons in the chalice with the palace, but the vessel with the pestle has the brew that is true." And he's trying to
I
figure this thing out.
I know that line.
Oh yeah. So the pellet with the poisons in the chalice with the palace, but the vessel with the pestle has the brew that is true. He
Actually,
finally
I think
gets
I only know that because it's a like vocal warm up.
he finally gets it correct. He finally gets it, and he's so proud. He goes, "The pellet with the poisons in the chalice with the palace, but the vessel with the pestle has the brew that is true." And she goes, "But there's been a problem." He goes, "What?" And she goes, "They broke the chalice from the palace." And he goes, "They broke the chalice from the palace?" She goes, "Yes," and replaced it with a flagon with a figure of a dragon. He goes, "So the pellet with the poisons and the flagon with the dragon?" "No! The pellet with the poisons, the vessel with the pestle, but the flagon with the dragon is the brew that is true." It's a great scene. Great movie. If you guys are into Danny Kaye at all, or even just good movies, watch The Court Jester. And fun fact as well, Basil Rathbone is in it as well.
Basil
And
Rathbone.
he is cited as being one of the greatest Hollywood swordsmen of all time. True story.
Wow.
And there's a pretty impressive sword fight scene between he and Danny Kaye at the end of the movie too. So, having said all that, Avienda, Elaine, they're
Wait, we're
palling
still doing a
around.
show?
Oh yeah, this is not the pre-show anymore. I apologize. Actually, Andrew, in post, if you could just take that whole part out, make that our pre-show, that would
Ah,
be
that
great.
makes sense. Yeah.
No, but they are palling around. They're doing their thing, and at one point in time, I can't remember what's just happened, but Rand has made his decision to attempt to cleanse Saidin.
I
So
mean,
this
what's
is
happened in his life is that he went to Farmatting and fucked shit up.
well, yes, that's what's happened.
And he's like, all right, that's it. Siding is bullshit.
I'm done with
I'm
this.
over this.
We're not having it anymore.
We're
So he
fixing
collects
it. Nynaeve?
the Terangreal that will allow you to
One
pull from the
Terangreal
greatest
find them all.
Sangreal ever
The
completed.
keys to the
keys.
Choden Call.
And Rand shows up to the palace. So Min at this point in time is still connected to Rand. Ever since Elaine sent him from ever since Elaine
Bump it up.
sent her from Saladar, Min has been palling around with Rand. She's been, quote, comforting him. And then they go to Farmatting. They're doing all the things. Rand shows up to the palace, and it's great. The second he's got a mask of mirrors on, so he looks like a sweaty old nasty dude. and he kind of kneels. He's like, "Oh yeah, well, I've got something very important for Mistress Almira." And Min is supposed to help him and be a little bit more legit. And she just like laughs at him and runs off. He knows exactly where she's going. She's going to get
Wrong.
Elaine and
Wrong.
Aviendha. And he's like, "Damn it. Well, maybe I can do this and get out of here before that happens." Spoiler alert, he can't. He's in there talking to Nynaeve, and he tells her what he wants to do. And Nynaeve's like, "Oh,
You're
shit."
crazy, but sure.
But okay, but she can feel the power coming off them Tirong Reals. And she's like, "All right, dude, I'm in." And this is what I love about Nynaeve. She's always
DTCT
down.
to
She's
cleanse
like,
the taint.
"Let's do this.
She
Let's fuck the
is
dark one up."
DT whatever.
Imagine
she is.
imagine
She's
they have that
DT
thing and like
dubs.
Nynaeve
DT
shows up
dub!
with like a wet towel and she's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
the
that's
power!
right. She's down to cleanse
Oh,
DTC.
I thought." She just blushes whenever Rand's like, "I need you to help me cleanse the taint." You just see like Elaine, Avi, and the
Awkward.
men off to the side, like, "This motherfucker."
Bitch, you thought.
So then, so Elaine, Avienda, and Min pop the door open. Boom!
Doesn't he basically look
And
at
there's
Lan
Lon.
like, "Help me," and
And there's
Lan's
90
like, "A man must fight
And
his
there's
own
Rand.
battles."
And Rand looks up and he's like, "Oh shit!" Now I've always, yes,
It's kind of hilarious.
does.
Because
And
Lon's
Lon's like,
already had this
"Yeah,
little thing of, like, trying to keep Nynaeve
I'm-
away, and
I'ma
he's
go.
at this point he's like, I've lost a battle."
He kind of
just looks
laughed at him
Rand,
too.
and he's like, I don't know how that feels. You're on your own, bro. Dude, bro, good
Yeah,
luck.
yeah. I've lost. Sorry. Dude, bro, good luck. So Nynaeve
Dude,
and
bro.
Lon are like, "Yeah, we're gonna go," and they do. They just kind of peace out. They're like, "Mm-mm."
Not
can't have a
before
scene with Nynaeve
Nynaeve
if
gives
she
a
doesn't give
piece of her
somebody a
mind
piece
to
of her mind.
Rand, though.
Right? Yeah,
It's amazing she has a mind left with as many
that's
pieces
very
as she's given
on
out.
brand for her.
Because it's Nynaeve. She can't ever
Bro,
do
we're on the
anything.
sun- we're on
without
the
giving a
same
piece of her
rum
mind
length,
to
bro.
Whoever it is.
It's amazing.
Not even a wavelength.
Dude,
it's
I was
rum
just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that. It's amazing. So this, if anybody else needed confirmation that the boys in black at the Black Tower were on the same wavelength, you've now got Andrew and Daniel saying the same thing at the same time, and now you got myself and Andrew. All that's left
We
is
all
for
fell
me and
asleep
Daniel
one
to
time,
say
and somebody like played a
the
fucking
same
joke on us and like
thing
water.
as
I'm not doing it.
the
I'm not
same-
pandering.
Damn it, Daniel! I knew you were gonna say that though.
Oh,
So-
God,
Fine,
no.
be selfish.
But this
then.
scene
Thought
is
sharing
one
was
of the
caring.
coolest because
You don't get to be part of my sticky, sticky fun times.
Fine. Yeah, I thought it was too.
It can be fun,
So
but it's
Elaine
not.
does something never before done. Again,
Well, that's why we
like,
have the fantastic
they
thing
do
of
this
the
a lot in the
unreliable
book,
narrator.
right? So it becomes it
It's
almost
never been
becomes
done
like a
as far as
syndrome
they
from
know
The
of.
Incredibles. When everything's incredible, nothing is.
The same thing, like Birgitta being a female being bonded as a warder
Yeah.
was something that they had sparse recollections of.
Mm.
So it was still very
Yeah,
unique,
though-
very out of the ordinary, just because of the way the Aes Sedai work. Which the more and more I think about it, the more and
Right.
more it shouldn't be all that uncommon.
So yes.
Well,
I
to
mean,
be fair, there is
true.
the one thing that's true is that in everyone's memory, warders are actually not that old. Because again,
Masana.
Mogedion, I think it's either Mogedion or Masana who actually comments on how weird the warder bond is and how in like
Masana.
the age of
Masana.
What?
Is this when she pleasures the warder to death?
It-
Because it's after that she's like,
Yeah.
this is this
Yeah, and
weird
she's like-
bond has some unique properties. Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to study
And she's
some
like,
more.
it's so crazy that you guys got to this thing from, from what we used to do. And you're like, I don't even know what you used to do. Like, what the fuck are you
Silence. Jizz to death.
Yeah.
What did you used to do? Okay.
So,
I'm going to
Never.
need you to stop.
yes. So it's interesting. So Elaine does the water bond, and she kind of
it.
does this like, she's like, okay, water bond between myself and Rand.
Well, she kind of
cool.
mimics the first
Water
sister
bond.
bond that she saw too. Like she incorporates elements of
That's
that.
exactly what
Yeah.
she does. Yeah.
And she does this like weird variation where it's a 4-way bonding.
It's a 3-way bonding.
I mean,
Because they literally talk about, Elaine and Aviendha have talked about this, and they've gone over what they need to do, because Elaine sort of, again, as you said, she is actually the one who kind of focuses on like the first sister bond and like the weaves that are being used and whatnot. So she starts it, and she takes control of this thing, and she weaves it around her Aviendha and Min and
Right.
herself.
They kind of wind up using Rand almost as like a Terran Grial, because they do all this and then they just push it through Rand.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's kind of
And
where
then
I say,
she has to pass it to Aviendha, who then has to do the same thing, because she can connect herself and Min and herself and Aviendha, but she can't connect Aviendha and Min. And so
Right.
Aviendha then takes over, and she connects herself to Min and sort of doubles the connection between her and Elaine so that it goes
Right.
both ways.
Well,
and then passes it back to Elaine, who pushes it all at Rand.
right, and that's kind of where what I was getting at with a 4-way is the 3 ladies and Rand and the bonding going through everybody.
But it's actually, but again, I actually think that it's very interesting, unique, that it's not actually 4 ways. It's a 3-person thing that's then all pushed into one person. So it doesn't actually really feel equal.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like, again, Elaine and Aviendha and Min have all made this decision, and they're like, hey, Rand, fucking deal with it. And then they just...
But I mean, the best thing about it, though, is completely drastically opposite end of the spectrum from what Alana does to Rand. Rand, they have a dialogue about it first. They don't just do it and be like, yeah,
true.
like it, farm boy,
Yeah.
or fuck off. And Rand kneels there. He's like, I accept it. He's like, because I love you all. And it's nice, because the Rand we're seeing at this point is that Rand that wants to be void of emotions. He wants to step away from emotions.
Yep.
I've got to be harder. I've got to be stone. No, I can't be stone. I've got to be steel.
Yeah.
No, I can't be steel. I've got to be fucking Minecraft obsidian.
We've got
Oh, you know it was going to get nerdy.
Pre-Darth Rand.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Is basically where we're at right now.
Is it pre-Darth Rand? Because Darth Rand emerges after Demise Wells. This is not pre-Darth. This is Darth Rand because Min is in the room showing his feelings.
No, Darth Rand is Bale firing the entire city.
Natrin's Barrow.
That's true.
That's what I consider to be. I consider.
I mean, that's
okay,
Darth Vader
so
ordering the firing
like
of the Death Star to destroy.
Right?
What was Padme's home world? Yeah, there you go. Alderaan or Alderaan.
That's not Padme's
whatever it
home.
was. You know,
that's
there. Okay, you know what the fuck I was getting at. I apologize.
Podcast, so you can be wrong about Star Wars.
That's why we have Josh.
If I was going to put this into a Star Wars metaphor, I would say that this Rand that we're seeing at this point in time is Anakin Skywalker, who is
murdering younglings.
Loss of his mother.
Yes. Okay. No.
And is
where he is
descending
currently
into darkness. And when he bale fires the shit out of Natrin's Barrow, that's Anakin murdering younglings.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
So we are currently on Rand's descent into darkness and madness, and I think that's partly why he comes up with the idea to cleanse Saidin, because it's kind of like a madman's desperate attempt for some sort of redemption. At this point in time, he's got his list of women that are dead that he's obsessing over, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta do this. I gotta find some kind of redemption. I know. I'll cleanse Sidene." And it's like it's actually really desperate and
Oh,
Well, and he, of
something
course,
that
has no idea if it's actually going to work. Like, he has strong suspicions. I'm not saying that he's like, this is coming out of nowhere or anything like that, but he's definitely like, all right, I need Nynaeve and the Choden Call and whatnot to make this work if it's going to work. But he's kind of standing there being like, I'm not even 100% sure I can do this. It's
and like
never been
we've
done
hinted at
before.
before, we talked about it before, the foundation for how this happens is laid out in Eye of the World. Because it was a group of male and female channelers that gave their lives to create in comparison, an infinitely inferior pool of pure Sidene without the taint. So you got to imagine Rand at some point being like, how the fuck did I get here?
Infinitely.
yeah.
Infinitely smaller.
I bet you're wondering how we got here.
So he's sitting there thinking about this. and he's
Record
like,
scratch. So I bet you're wondering how I got here.
So he's sitting there thinking about like everything Moraine said about how the Eye of the World came to be and what it meant and what it was and blah 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 blah. And he's like, "Well,
Wow, that sounds exactly.
yeah, exactly.
Like
I mean, it's probably exactly how he sounds whenever
Blah,
he's
blah,
like
blah, blah,
standing
blah,
in a
blah, blah.
room talking to himself, and everybody else walks in like, "What the fuck?"
Well, half of him actually sounds like
Oh, yeah,
Mark
that's true.
Hamill, but
I really want Mark Hamill like as the animated Joker to be the voice of Luce Theron.
dude, it'd be so good.
I would. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, so I mean,
Anyway.
he already has this from himself memory, which makes him more likely to trust it because we know the whole divide between Rand and Luce Theron is Rand's unwillingness to accept the soul that he is reincarnated. So he has this memory, and that's what gives rise ultimately to this idea of, well, what if we did that, but like America style, just like bigger, just because we can. And it fucking works. I mean, it only works because of who is involved and the tools that they have to use it, but it 100% works.
So
Which
they do the
the
bonding.
bonding, yes. I feel like that has a very terrible connotation to it because of Ted Bundy. You can't say the bonding.
No, you can't. They do the bonding.
You can't tell me what to do.
And so my favorite part is Brigida comes up, like she can sense what's happening through her warder's bond with Elaine. And it was great because Min and Aviendha are like, okay, now we're going to just head out. And Elaine's like, so Rand, these other two women have gotten something from you that I have not yet gotten to partake
It's time
in.
to dip your dragon in the noble waters.
That's right. And she's like,
Please
I can't
don't
get this
ever-
dress
oh my
off
God,
myself.
I'm so over. Andrew's
I was
losing
gonna-
it, and he's taking
I was
me
going to
down
turn
with
on my
him.
echo effect, but I can't because I'm under construction in my home office and my
Hold
fancy
on.
sound
Let me open
is
the
not in
thing.
commission at the moment. Open the thing.
Join the noble caucus, Rand.
Did you ever hear of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
How do you bond 3 women at
And
once?
the cool
It's
thing
not
was, is
something
like-
the Jedi would teach you.
Is it possible to learn this power? Not from a Jedi. No, Elaine
Do it,
is like
Randikin.
getting on the dragon. She's becoming the third and final dragon rider. And Min, Aviendha, and Brigida are all standing outside the room, blushing. Like, they're like, whoa, cannot handle this. And Avienda's like, please don't go in there, Brigida. Please don't go in there. And she's like Please just think of it as a good joke. I love the IEL humor coming through, and she's like pleading, please let this just be a good joke. Don't go in there and ruin this for them. I couldn't stand the shame if you walked in on my first sister. And even ooh, excuse me, that was a Sailor Jerry. Even in this
Jesus.
state where Avienda is also distracted, I might add,
Mm-hmm.
she is also under this. She's like, it's a good joke. It's a good joke. It's a good joke. Please, please, please. She's still looking out for others. She's still looking out and defending others. And she's manages to finally convince Brigitte, I know where
To
some good
just go get some
Uskwa is.
uskfi.
Let's go get shit faced. And I'm 100% on board with this strategy.
If we can't feel our faces, we can't
'Cause
feel
it's
what the fuck's
delicious.
going on.
And that's basically what it comes down to. And then Min is like, I'm trying this trick of masking the bond. It ain't
Because the
working.
thing,
not
don't they try to
working.
apply where, like, hasn't Rand or somebody of them told them about, like, being able to kind of section off the bond?
Elaine knows how to mask the water bond, and she actually masked the water bond with Brigitte so that she could manage to pull this little stunt off. But
She
Yep.
can't control that right now.
apparently, riding the dragon is so intense.
Yes. Well, Elaine can't control herself because she's a little distracted, and the rest of them are
She's
like,
busy
I
with-
don't know how to do this. I've never done it before. And Birgitte's like, yeah, I also kind of learned how to do that, and it's not fucking working.
doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's a piece of crap. It
So they
doesn't
resort
work.
to the oldest of human additives.
Hey, remember to wind your watch.
Hey, and that's the movie quote for the night. We haven't done a movie quote in a while, but here's your movie
It's true.
quote again. It's a piece of crap. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm getting at? You guys know what I'm
Indeed.
getting at, right? I'm just
I
making
know.
sure.
I am picking up what you're putting down.
I
And I am
appreciate
putting
that, sir.
down what you're picking up.
Wait
And
a
I'm-
second.
I'm picking it up and I'm putting it right back down so Daniel can pick it up.
I'm so confused.
So they go off and they find some Usquai and Avienda, Brigitte, and Min. I think what I love about the trio of dragon lovers, because Avienda, Brigitte, and Min, they all go off and get shit faced, and it's great.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. Elaine only gets wrecked once, and she regrets it for the rest of her life, and never,
Yeah, say
never, never,
once.
never.
I'm pretty sure she's
does
getting
it
wrecked
again.
right now.
I mean, alcoholic wise. I
The
don't.
bond
Yeah, no.
goes two ways.
No, to be fair,
Well, okay, yeah, there is
So
that.
normally,
I mean-
Elaine would have said no to the double Russian handspring
So
maneuver.
wait a minute.
But now, because everybody else is shit faced,
So let me ask this then: if
oh
Brigitte
fuck,
gets,
I never
they're
thought
getting
about
drunk,
that.
and Elaine, because we already seen how influenced Elaine can be by the bond with Brigitte, right? So
Yeah.
what happens to?
How shit faced is
she's
Elaine
getting
getting,
it from
with
3.
literally all 3 people getting shit?
Could you imagine
faced?
being Rand and you're just sitting there and you just see the sudden change in Elaine and she's just like, "You're a very pretty man." And this no longer feels like something we should be doing.
So
just-
tall,
And just
Rand.
all of a sudden,
so
just all of a sudden,
tall.
Elaine's voice changes
Rand.
to,
You better not stop.
Grant,
I hate everything about you right
all I can think of is like the Jimmy Buffett song "Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw."
I haven't heard that song in forever.
Why don't we do it in the road?
So Avienda, in the previous episode, I talked about Avienda and I said that she was someone whose entire life was turned upside down.
Uh-huh.
I want to sort of readdress that statement because I don't think her life was turned upside down. I think she was a bullet train going at full speed in one direction and was then instantly expected to stop and go the other direction. Like
She had a sudden left turn.
It's
It
weird that you're not defining that as turned upside down.
well, I think
I
it
feel like that's
offers a
almost
better
textbook
visual.
definition of.
I mean, I think you're right, but I think it gives a better visual because I am more likely to envision myself sitting in a train going 300 miles per hour that instantly starts going 300 miles an hour the other way. I think everybody can
You're
sit around and
dead.
go, "Oh
You're
shit."
pretty sure the laws
You're
of physics
dead.
turn you into a red and color paste.
But the point being, okay, the point being is that Avienda experiences this when going from a uh, spear maiden to a wise one. She experiences this. She handles it with grace,
No,
which
she
we get.
doesn't.
Well,
You're
as
adorable.
much grace as someone can possibly muster in said situation.
I mean, she kind of gets forced out of the warrior hoodness into the stereotypical married womanness that is also a wise one. Because kind of at the same time,
Precisely.
I think I'm actually picking up what you're stepping in. We're going to go with that phrase. Um, is that she has to go
Nice.
from all she's ever known and all she's ever trained for and cared about is direct person to person physical conflict, also known as a war or battle. And
Right.
now, in a very, very short time, because when you think about it, the entire Wheel of Time series takes place, minus New Spring, over the course. I say minus New Spring because I don't 100% know. But the core series takes place over the
Yeah,
course
yeah.
of like what, like a year and a half, 2 years maximum?
Yeah, it's
It's
not a
between
Yeah.
two
So
and
long
between,
three.
all right. So
stretch.
we'll go with
Yeah.
between 2 and 3, but that's still a amazing amount of time for somebody to have to make such a radical character shift from I'm gonna stab you with my spear to I have to think about this diplomatically. I have to consider the man I love, my near
Well,
sisters or first
and you
sisters.
think about there's a scene in Crossroads of Twilight. It is just after Rand and Nynaeve have cleansed
Hmm.
Saidin, and Elaine, or not Elaine, Egwene has called Elaine and asked her to meet her in the world of dreams. And they still don't know what happened. All they know is they visited Shadar Logoth, and there's a crater 3 miles wide in the ground at where Shadar Logoth used to be. And Elaine is unable to utilize the Dream Terangrial because she is pregnant, and sometimes pregnancy does some funky things to being able to channel. So Avienda goes in
Especially
her
when you're the
place and
literal
sits down and
children of the
speaks with
dragon.
Egwene. It, right. So Avienda is sitting with Egwene, and Egwene is talking about all these different things that's happening. Here's what's going on, and they do this really cool thing where Egwene says that the rebel Aes Sedai have come to a consensus that they need to ally themselves with the Black Tower, or at least come to some kind of agreement to work together with
Mutually
the Black Tower.
beneficial contract.
Yeah, precisely. And Avienda's like, oh, okay, why? And Egwene says, if the Forsaken have a weapon that intense that we can't even compete with, we need men who can channel in order to increase our circles, in order to handle more of the one power, in order to even begin to combat that level of power. And Avienda says, and what if it's not the Forsaken? What if the Forsaken don't have that kind of a weapon? And Egwene does this really cool thing where she stops and says, wow, I haven't been able to speak to Avienda in a long time, but I can see the transition she's made from I'm a spear sister, I'm going to stab it, and that's how I'm going to solve the problem, to let's think about this. We're not trying to end life anymore. Now we're trying to preserve life. And how do you know you guys are making the right decision? And I think it's a really cool moment. It's such a small moment, but I think it's a really cool moment where Egwene, who at this point in time is under her own amount of pressure, but she can. It's such a spectacular moment in Avienda's character progression that even Egwene is stopping and recognizing that, wow, Avienda's come a long way. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a really big moment. Because as we know, Avienda's still palling around with Elaine. She's still doing her thing.
Yeah.
Um, and she hasn't got to the next step in her apprenticeship, which I kind of feel like we should
we
hit.
hitting it. I just
Because
highlighted
it's important.
the chapter that it happens in.
You go, boy.
So you have all this happen with Avienda, and this entire time she from the time she has returned from Ruidine, pick a ending.
Someday.
I'll just say pick one because even when I think I say things right, I say things wrong because English and old tongue is hard. My tongue is new, not old, so therefore I cannot pronunciate.
Ooh,
But she's doing all this stuff like she.
Okay,
So like,
I was actually going for Trade Federation,
so
but you know.
while she's in Elaine's rooms, Avienda demonstrates that she also has a talent.
no need to report anything until we have something to report.
Avienda demonstrates that she has a talent as well for identifying Terangriel. And then it comes down to the IL are leaving Camelin, and Elaine's like, "Here, take this amber turtle and twisted ring, just in case you might need them." And she's like, "Cool, thanks, first sister. I'm out."
You're the best.
And so then it's Ruark and Heron and Avienda. They're scouting the Damani refugees that are near Rand's house, manor, fancy noble thing in Eradomon. And when they come back, they meet up, and there's a Miss, Spire, Mullane, and Nadir. Nadir? Is that what we're going to go with? How do I pronounce it, Daniel? Nadere.
Nadir is correct.
And Miss is like asking Avienda like all these questions. She's like, instead of playing 20 questions, she's like playing like 180 questions. And she's like, all right, cool. Good answers.
Is it bigger than a bread box?
And she's like, all right, cool. Good answers. Good job. Go do this absolutely useless, meaningless labor. And Avienda's like, as you command, wise one, and fucks off and does it. And, they have a meeting with Rand, with the Aes Sedai and the wise ones. Avienda's there. The clan chiefs are there. Bashir is there. And they talk about their plans for Aradomon, and all that happens. And then later on, when we start getting into the Gathering Storm chapter 11, Avienda is already exhausted from the punishments that she's already received, the useless labor she's already been assigned. And there's Adrin, which is a Saldean soldier, just bursts into flames in the manor house, sets it on fire, and she puts the blaze out. She fucking channels and everything, cancels it out with water from a nearby stream. And Mullane congratulates her, like, "Oh, such a good job. Go do this pointless shit." And this whole time, Avienda's like, "Man, this is fucking bullshit, but I've got to do their training if I'm going to be a wise one." And then Miss once again starts questioning Avienda, and this is only 4 chapters later in chapter 15. And Miss is like, "Yeah, good answers. I like this a lot. I'm going to have to be a lot more creative in how I punish you." And Avienda's like, what the fuck? And 11 chapters later, Avienda finally has the epitome of a what the fuck moment. Because Min is asking her questions, and Avienda she finally snaps. And she goes to Miss and Byron Mullane, and she's like, "Enough with your bullshit. I'm done with your training. I'm done with your punishments. That is enough. I'm fucking done because it's pointless and bullshit." And they start fucking laughing. And she's like, "What the fuck? Why would you shame me so?" And they're basically like, we wondered how long it was going to fucking take you to be a wise one. You have to stand up to the bullshit. You have to be able to stand up and be like, this is fucked up. This is wrong. And Aviendha is like, oh, some Mr. Miyagi kind of shit. Okay, I got it.
It was her final
To
test.
stand up to everything she'd ever been told to just, without question, listen to and obey. And they're like,
which is actually one of the most obnoxious things. It's actually one of the books, one of the pieces of the book that I hate. Like I don't actually hate it, but it's one of the things that I actually really dislike is the idea that, again, there are so many of these storylines, not so many of them, but enough of them in these books. And of course, again, I love the books because this is so real.
Yes.
Because this happens all the time. But I hate, or I super dislike that convention of like, oh, no, you're training to be a wise one. You're a wise one apprentice. Literally anything we tell you to do, you must do without question because there is a reason for it. And if you don't do it, A, you'll never get to be a wise one, and B, you're going against your wise ones, which is actually one of the biggest offenses that you can possibly do in the entirety of Aiel culture.
Well,
and the final test is literally to turn around and be like, no, fuck you, fuck your wise one training. I'm done with it. I'm out. You can go. I'll eat a dick. And then they are like, congratulations, you're a and you're like, unacceptable that is the final test.
But I mean, okay, how else? Given Aiel culture and Aiel ways, okay, given Giotto, what other test is there to make sure that you are going to have a wise one who will defend her hold, defend her sept, defend her clan, whatever it is? You need to have, I mean, they talk about it repeatedly where wise ones are not ranked by the power. And again and again and again, Aes Sedai and Elaine and these figures, they keep saying, we have no idea how wise ones are ranked. However, Soralia is a woman you do not fuck with, and she can barely channel a spark.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to this Aiel training of you have to be. It's almost like a, if I may borrow from a Marvel analogy, right? It's almost like Captain America saying it doesn't matter if the whole world is telling you to move. If what you're doing is right, it is your job. It is your duty to stand firm right there and say, no, you move. And I think this is going to be a really powerful moment in the series, in the TV series. At least I hope so. Rafe, please. I know you listen. And I need Aviendha to have this moment. And I need Aviendha to show her badassery in spades. Like, I need this to happen. And I need Aviendha to just go, I'm done with it. Because they give her the most shaming tasks. And I think she even says at one point in time, holy crap, this is some bullshit.
Yeah, they're treating her as that sang.
Exactly. And
They
it
are.
wasn't until, and the thing was, is Aviendha has this conflict between do what you're told to do and fuck you.
Well, again, okay, so here's the thing, and I'm on board, and I absolutely appreciate what you're saying in terms of the fact that, you know, there isn't necessarily a better test. There isn't necessarily a better way to legitimately see that, you know, a woman who is training to be a wise one is so strong in her own convictions that she can even say fuck you to the ways of the Aiel
Right.
to stand up to what she thinks is wrong. I get that. I'm not saying that that's not true. But on the other hand, like, again, you end up having two really big problems unless, again, all of them sort of have this happen perfectly. Which Avienda, you could argue, sort of has it happen perfectly, that it doesn't really take her that long to get to this point. But like, if you have someone who the second that they're given a task like that goes, hey, no, can you really trust them to ever then bend over and take it when they
Well,
need to?
and you know what? That's a valid point because
And
you've
if
got
you
wise
have
ones like
someone,
Savannah
right?
who
And if
are
you end up going
shitheads.
ahead and being on the other side, where somebody spends years doing this and never actually turns around and says, absolutely not, why the fuck are you making me do this? Can you ever really be sure that they're actually not gonna, turn around? So it's definitely one of those situations where I, in my, worldview and my experience, definitely sat there with the book and was like, a way better way to do this is just for Amis and Bear and Mullane to decide that Avienda is ready just by their judgment call. And if there's, at minimum 2 or 3 of them, you're going to get a nice discussion about whether somebody is ready. And when all of them agree, they go to Avienda and say, Avienda,
I
you
think
are
they
So
now
did.
ready. Don't ever let
I hear
I think
you.
they
anyone
did, and I think that's what brought
do
the
anything.
punishments on. They're like, we think she's
I
ready.
Well, no. I agree
I
with that, but
hear
again,
you.
to then to make that decision among themselves and then to deceive Avienda in some ways for a certain amount of time is the part that I'm not okay with. Once
So
they make that decision, they should go to Avienda and be honest with her and say, you are now capable of being a wise one. Don't let anyone tell
And
you
Josh, I'm
different.
gonna
so
actually
And I
ask you
feel
to
like
hold
that is
off if you don't
just
mind,
as good in some ways.
and I'm
go ahead.
gonna request the initiative. Um, I think they basically do that, and I think their discussion yields the well. We've seen that she can listen to us, that she will follow us, that she will go by her teachings. Now we need to see that she has the strength to stand up against those who tell her what should be. Does she have the strength and the knowledge now? Is she prepared enough to say, you're wrong, this shouldn't be happening? Because that's ultimately a lot of what the wise ones do. They guide and they call people out when they're wrong. That's why it's, when you talk about the clan chiefs, we can't think about it, as we're often reminded, the same way we think about lords and governors and kings and rulers and such, that they have absolute authority and rule. That a lot of times wise ones will look at the clan chiefs and say, you're wrong because of this, and they actually, it's not so much of one person telling the other person they're wrong. It's they have a discussion about it. They tell each other why they think they're wrong, and they decide on a mutually beneficial movement forward. So I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it is deceiving because they're not punishing Avienda because she did anything wrong. They're punishing her because she hasn't realized what she needs to do yet. And I think it fits very well within the IL customs and their history to make somebody be forced to see it by going through the trials of having to endure it, to give better credence to why they can see things as, oh, I need to put it into this. Kind of like you can't really attest how effective a taser is until you've been tased.
I I agree. And I here's if I may utilize a metaphor, okay? The metaphor I would utilize is in the movie Down Periscope, which is a fantastic movie. If you've not seen it, come out from underneath that rock you're hiding on under and go watch that movie because it's hilarious. It's fantastic. The the dive officer who is played by Lauren Holly, she comes onto a submarine and she is trying to control a dive. at one point in time in the movie. And she's like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And at one and then you know the captain, who is played by oh, for crying out loud, I can't remember his damn name.
You can look it
Kelsey
up.
Grammer, who's played by Kelsey Grammer, is purposely making bad calls in order to spur her into action, in order to get her to say, no, you're making the wrong call. I need to make the right call. I'm the dive officer. And he says, I'm just guessing here. If you can do it better than I can, freaking get in here and do it. And she jumps in and she comes up to it. But if you want to look at it from a wise one's perspective, what is the wise one's main goal? Preserve the Aiel way of life. Now,
Okay.
in Down Periscope, Kelsey Grammer puts the entire crew at risk in order to pull this woman out of her funk and make her perform at the level that he knows that she can perform at. I believe, in the spirit of preserving life, that the wise ones have devised a method of pulling that same sort of self worth and self confidence out without endangering other lives.
Okay, but okay, here's the difference, and one of the things that I think both of you said, and like again, I don't think that we're actually super disagreeing on this, but it is a difference here, is that basically what the wise ones are doing, and to continue with the metaphor, and I think it's actually a relatively apt metaphor. It's just a little bit of a different situation. Basically, it's that they taught that basically if you know she had gone to school and learned how to go ahead and do dives, and she had learned how to do dives one way. Now, granted, I understand that she's seeing examples of people doing a different thing. I'm not saying that the wise ones aren't being a good example of what a full wise one looks like once she comes into her own and is a full wise one. That's a presence that she has the whole time. But she's basically going to school and learning how to do dives one way.
Right.
And when she gets to the end of school, learning how to do dives in this particular way, she's now being told that to do dives differently than she taught.
I can see that.
Sorry, I take that back. My bad. It's actually that she's being told at the end of that schooling to do dives exactly like she was taught. And yet when she actually tries to do the dive, it fails miserably. And that's the kind of thing that really bothers me about this situation, is that the wise ones are constantly and consistently telling her that she will not be allowed to be a wise one if she doesn't follow orders, if she doesn't follow teachings, if she doesn't do exactly what they tell them. And not only that, Aviendha also has this other piece of it that we are kind of glossing over, or that we had glossed over at some point, but is very true, is that Egwene joined her in her Wise One teaching on the same day. Now,
That
granted,
is true.
they knew that she was never actually going to be a Wise One. Egwene is not Aiel. Egwene is not, but she's learning how to be a Dream Walker and doing a lot of the different things that Aviendha is doing. And she actually has a requirement on her that if she doesn't do everything that the Dream Walkers ask her to, she will be sent away. Now, they're not willing to say the same thing to Aviendha, because I think that they are going to make her a Wise One whether she wants to be or not. It just depends on whether she's going to be a Wise One apprentice for a year or for 30 years. And they don't know which one it's going to be, but they're not going to give her up and send her away. But again, it's a situation where she's looking at it being like, okay, well, I could be a Wise One's apprentice for 30 years here if I don't follow teachings and lessons and everything. And then they get to the end of that and they say, cool, now you've passed the last test, which was to do exactly the opposite of what we've always told you to do and what we would have sent Egwene away for without ever teaching her more. And you're like, what the fuck
But
kind of
to
lesson
be fair,
is that?
I don't-
there are
I-
distinct.
Disagree slightly.
And I don't mean to step over you, Josh, again. Well, I can't say
No,
stepping
you're
over
good.
you. Last
Please,
time I
go.
asked, at least this time I haven't. But
No, I'm stepping over
no.
you this time, sir.
I mean,
Please.
so for Egwene, they see somebody that is completely alien to their world, alien to their customs, alien to everything about what it means to be IL, much less a wise one, trying to learn one of the quintessential abilities of an IL wise one. And they, in my opinion, they take to heart the inherent absolute risk of her not conducting herself in the absolutely appropriate way with dreamwalking. You know, that's why they get so mad when they find out that even when they order her to rest, she's still doing it. And YMS is like, you could have died because you can be drawn into these kind of things. We don't ever see, other than whenever Aviendha takes Elaine's place and Teleron Riad, we don't ever see, well, I don't want to say ever, because we do see her a couple times, but you don't see Aviendha operating in the same mechanism. And we can make all kinds of arguments, and this is more into IO culture than it is Aviendha herself, about being raised to be wary of things that you don't understand and to treat every enemy as if they are more capable than you, and things of the like. Egwene, I think, had to be treated in the way that she was, with absolute do what we say or we won't teach you, because of exactly, one, the wise one's recognition of her skill, power, and prowess, but also because of the absolute danger associated with what she was trying to learn from a culture and perspective that literally a year and a half ago, maybe at most 2 years, not even that long, by the time she starts learning dreamwalking from the wise ones, something from a culture that's completely 100% alien to her. So I think that's the big distinction there. Did the wise ones at all deceive Aviendha? 100% yes. No question. They made her feel like she was doing the wrong thing, even whenever everything told her she was doing the right thing. And they chose to go a bit of the trial by fire route. Either you're going to break and give up because of the stuff you're doing because you're IL, and you either succeed or you fail, or you're going to realize that we are being unfair, that there is no warrant to what we're making you do, and you're going to stand up for it. And there's Egwene's case is unique because she is not IL. She is a guest to the IL. She is a guest to the wise ones, learning something that is not part of Aes Sedai teaching, that is not a part of really, I think, anything the IL have really done before. This is not within their MO. But they can't refuse the Aes Sedai because of the toe they feel to the Aes Sedai for something they failed that 90% of them can't even remember. I'm going to say 98% of them can't even remember, but the wise ones do. And they know what happened. So
Right.
when Egwene takes and instead says, look, I've been lying to you guys this entire time. I am not Aes Sedai and everything else. It's almost like she puts them through the inverse test that Aviendha goes through. I haven't paid for it yet. You need to keep going. And it takes all of them saying, basically, fuck this, I'm done. I can't stand to do this to you anymore. You've paid for what you did. Whereas for Aviendha, so you had to have Egwene break from everything she learned as a kid and fully embrace the aspect of toe. Whereas Aviendha, she had to be willing to risk her G to stand up for what she feels is ultimately right, which in a almost ironic turn of events winds up accruing G, being that person that stands up and says, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening, we need to stand against it. Is it any less deceptive than Egwene was to the wise ones? No, not at all. But I think it ultimately winds up sending kind of the same kind of message, just from two opposite ends of the cultural spectrum.
except that I think that you're missing what I said there, because again, it's not necessarily that Avienda doesn't know that Egwene's situation is different. I mean, it's obvious that Egwene's situation is different from day one. Avienda absolutely knows that without a doubt. Just looking into Egwene's face and seeing her eyes and her hair and the fact that she's not Aiel and all of this different stuff. But there is a camaraderie that Egwene and Avienda have with each other before they even get to the waste to start learning. And they
Right.
start learning the same day, almost the same second they start learning how to be wise ones. And again, while Egwene doesn't literally do every single thing that Avienda does, because they are learning two different skill sets, they are there night after night running around camp. They are there together night after night, digging holes with each other, doing laundry, in the sweat tents, all of this different stuff. And so it's this situation where I think it's absolutely, again, deceptive, which is not good, and like really underhanded in some ways, that this is the last test. Because you have Avienda, and again, I know that not everybody goes through this, and this is kind of unique to Avienda, but Avienda has this thing in the back of her mind that Egwene was literally going to be kicked out of training every day she fucked up. And here's Avienda getting to the end of her training, looking like she's gonna fuck up by exploding at the wise ones for doing this thing that she knows is wrong.
Conversely,
And then
though,
she gets there, does the thing, and they laugh at her and don't even immediately come out and tell her. I mean, like, again, it's relatively immediate. It's in the same conversation. I'm not saying that they make her wait a long time, but instead of going ahead and just saying, absolutely, Avienda, you're right. Thank you so much for passing your tests. You're one of us. We're sorry we did that. They laugh and then go, finally, you're a wise one. And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
So I feel I agree with you. It's fucked up. It's not okay. I feel like there is a measure of it's a test and it's a bit of a hazing rite of passage, right? So it's kind of
And that's the part that I have a problem.
both and forth. And if you look closely at the situation, though, Egwene never needs to be tested on the whole. You got to do what you know is right, even if you have been instructed not to.
Sure.
I don't believe for a second that the wise ones don't know about her trips to Tel'aran'rhiod. Maybe they don't. But she straight up says, I've been going into Tel'aran'rhiod. I've been doing this. Oh, and by the way, I'm not even Aes Sedai. And they look at her, and if you look at this in the perspective of the entire Wise One's sort of evaluation, they go, here we have a woman who not only does what she thinks is right, even knowing the potential consequences, but we have a woman who's willing to own up to it and who's not willing to hide it. And I believe that in that moment, Egwene sort of passed that test as well, even though the wise ones hadn't really established that she was ready for that test.
But again, I mean, like, I'm going to throw out one more time. That is not the point that I'm trying to make. That is neither here nor there. Her end of her thing is actually a totally different thing.
Sure.
It's literally
No, I get
the
it.
entire process between beginning
Right.
to that point, before
And
she
I
tells
agree.
them what she's talking about. Literally just the training aspect of Avienda and Egwene together.
And I get that, and I'm totally there, 100%. But so what I'm saying is that when it comes time for Avienda to hit that, there comes a certain point in time in which Avienda has to say, you guys are not okay right now, and you either need to tell me what I've done wrong, or you need to leave me the hell alone. And is it a little messed up? Sure. But keep in mind how the Aiel ways are. The Aiel ways are the weak were killed off long ago. There's no place for weakness in Aiel society. So you must be able to stand up to impossible odds if you think that what you're standing up for is right. And this has created problems because now you have people like Savannah, who is, I believe this is right. I believe I'm going to marry the Karakan and become the most powerful wise one. And Savannah's a complete and total wretched bitch. But that mentality is needed to defend and preserve
So
life.
let's do this so we can
Well,
move
and yet
on,
conversely,
because we obviously have some differences of opinion. So I'd like to hear what our listeners think. Do you think that the wise one's treatment of Avienda leading up to her standing up for herself and them saying, "You passed," was justified or not? Do you feel it was underhanded or not? Do you feel like they should have gone about it a different way? Do you think that the way they did it fit with the IL culture? Or just tell us your opinions on it as we move forward to try to close out
Please.
our episodes on Avienda, because I have to self correct
I love that.
an error I've made in the last episode. Because in the last episode, I
Oh,
mentioned Avienda meeting Nakomi, and I was 100% fuck diddly wrong. Hi diddly ho, neighbor, you done hi diddly fucked
yeah.
up. And the you being me.
She hasn't met
She does
Nicole.
not meet Nakomi, as Josh just said, until chapter 39 of Towers of Midnight. I was 100% wrong, and if that spoiled anybody,
That's right.
I have 10 of them.
wait, when did you say that?
Last episode we talked about it, or I talked about it. We didn't really talk about it in depth, so my memory might be like Matt's and missing parts that haven't been filled in, and you guys might have called me out on it, but I don't remember that. Just because I don't remember
I'm
exactly.
We didn't call you out on it because
I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember.
I feel
any
like I
Nakomi
said it.
conversations.
Yeah,
So either I was just that drunk.
All right, look, either I said
or-
it and I'm
We never
apologizing for being wrong now, or I didn't say it and I felt that I did, so I'm making sure that I'm apologizing for it now. Either way, it's
Okay,
not until
fine.
chapter.
You can
Yeah,
cover
I'm
your
just covering my
bases,
bases. Nobody's called us out on it yet, but people may be busy listening to other things as well. So it is not until Towers of Midnight, chapter 39, that Avienda meets Nakomi. After the wise ones are done with her, and so you finally learn, they send her back to Coal Rock's hold and tell her to go to Ruidion for her second trip into Ruidion, as the wise ones do. And it's then that she meets Nakomi, who semi miraculously produces stew of sorts, and challenges her about Rand and the future of the IL just by asking what seems like very stereotypically kind of, but how do you feel about it questions kind of thing. But also being
Yeah.
quasi philosophical about it. And then we get the interesting thing whenever Avienda notices that Nakomi is gone. I believe does she wake up, or does she just look and Nakomi's gone? I think she just looks and Nakomi is gone. But
Yeah.
her first instinct is, oh, it was an illusion, it was a mirage, it was something that I made up in my mind. But the stew bowl is still in her hands, which counters that idea of it being a false like mirage or something of that nature.
Right.
So then Aviendo makes it through Idion, goes to the glass columns herself in her second trip to the city, and sees possible futures of the IL through her descendants. So she's already gone and seen kind of a bit of a past, but now she's seeing possible futures.
Well, the first trip is sort of a
Other way around. She's seen the possible futures. Now she's seeing the past. The crystal columns are the past. The three rings are arguably, there could also be past in there as well, because the Aes Sedai do actually see, or when you become an accepted, you do actually see
I
your past as well. But
no
the crystal
her
I'm
columns
gonna
are the
have
past.
to
the
say I think
first
you're wrong
visit
on that one.
through. No, the first visit through, a
Is
wise
the
one
art?
sees potentials. She sees
Yes,
potential lifetimes. She sees potential. If I make this choice, then this is going to happen, and she sees all potentials. But the thing is that when they come out of the Terangrial, they only remember, so
bits
much.
and
You
Actually,
can
I
only
pieces.
remember
Yeah,
retract
so
it. You're
much.
right.
You
You're
get
right. I'm sorry.
impressions. The thing is, though, is that when Avienda goes through the next time, she does see futures still. And that's why she becomes so passionate about the preservation of life. That's why she needs to be able to stand up and I'm not trying to rag on this. I'm sorry, but that however she gets to that point, that's why she needs to be able to stand up to preserve life in the face of all odds, because she's in a situation, or she sees a potential future for her descendants of a situation that they may be in, where she needs to figure out how to save as many as she can.
sure, but she's already
We
seen that.
say that, but it's supposed to be
Nope.
Towers of Midnight,
First time
chapter
through.
48. That so they're going through all these attacks that have happened. That we're interpreting as the
Yeah.
past. With the Raven Empire and the far ones being Sara and all that. And it's at the end of chapter 48 that for Avienda, she realizes that the attackers were Shan soldiers on the Rockin or Raken. I don't know why I said Rockin. Um,
Right.
but for her, she feels it's not the
Rockin is
past,
correct.
it's the future of the IL. And then she moves forward
Right.
again into the column.
Right. Because it works differently for women than it does for men. When Rand went through, obviously, as we've discussed in great detail, he sees through his lineage back to the Genail who served the Aes Sedai. Avienda sees in her first trip, sees everything, all things, future and past. Now, I say this because I remember, because I'm in my reread right now, and she talks briefly about it, and the situation that they're in, she says, if we do this thing, something bad will happen. And it's when Rand and Nynaeve are cleansing Saidin, and Elaine is like, we need to go to Rand. And Avienda says, okay, look, I've been to Ruidian, and I've seen everything, all potentials of my life, past, present, future. Any potential choices I make, I've seen it all. Now, I can't remember
Yeah, that's before she goes through the crystal
99.9%
columns.
of it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This is the first trip to Meridian. She sees
Yes.
everything, past, present,
Uh huh.
and future. But she can't remember all of it,
Yes.
because you can't possibly remember all that.
Yes.
Now, when she goes through the second time, I'm not there in my reread, so I can't say for sure because it's been a while. What my impression is that she sees, and you know what? Maybe we're going to have to do a whole episode on what Avienda sees in the
Yeah.
glass columns. I think
Because
that's
there
what
is
we're
an
going to
element of
need
this
to do.
that the more and more I read through stuff that is reminding me of what I've read, elements of this are in the future. Because this is, yeah, I
I
mean,
just
you can disagree, but the source material says what it
in
says. Because there are parts of this that talk about, I mean, not to sound like a dick, I know that came off very blunt, and I do apologize for that. But there are parts of what we see in chapter 49, Court of the Sun and Towers of Midnight, where she talks about the Shan having captured Ruiden, Ilan, and Kyrian. They have also captured the
Yes.
Andorran war machines. The IO decide to retreat to the Threefold Land. The dragon wanted peace, but the IO cannot accept that with the Shan. It goes forward. Avienda remarks as she
Yes.
is on Kala, a maiden of the spear, that she carries the blood of the dragon reborn and is held in high esteem. So to me, all of that
Yes.
points,
Suggesting that it's an actual
yeah.
descendant
So to
of
me, all of
Rand.
that points to a future. Now, with that, if on her first trip she saw the future or possible futures of the IL, would it not also be possible that with that experience in her memories, that going through the crystal columns that typically show the past, at least for the male potential clan chiefs, that she's seeing potential past of what she saw as potential futures?
That'd be weird. I mean, like it's definitely possible. And again, there is a certain amount of this that I just don't fully remember, and
Same here.
I will absolutely take that.
Sounds like
But
we
My
it's
have some
also
shitty
actual
memory is
studying to
battling
do.
however good your memory is right now, to be honest with you. So
it is also interesting to talk about the fact that, like, again, maybe Avienda is different, and maybe women are different in general. The only person we ever see go through the crystal columns that is a woman is Avienda. But at the
Yes.
same time, there has to be, when it comes right down to it, that the wise ones do actually see the past. Because otherwise, they wouldn't have the understanding of where the Aiel came from, and that they were at one time, servants of the Aes Sedai and basically tinkers.
So
They wouldn't actually have that knowledge if they never actually go back to the beginning of the Aiel in their lineage, or at least not the same way that the clan chiefs do.
yes.
And they seem to be on the pretty much the same page, the wise ones and the clan chiefs,
Right.
on how the Aiel came to be and whatnot. So again, I'm certainly not saying that it's not possible that Avienda starts further in the future and then goes back or something like that. But it is definitely it's definitely not true that she absolutely just sort of goes into the future and doesn't go to the past. It might be an argument that she starts a little further ahead than she should have, as far as what we see with Rand, for example.
let me pose
But
this
again,
to you and see
this
if
is all back to questions and studying and
let me
memory
pose
and
this
things
to
like
you,
that.
Daniel, and see if it helps jog any of your memories. Because to be honest, it's not jogging mine. Still in chapter 49, Avian has a vision herself as Padra, a daughter directly of the Dragon Reborn and a maiden. With her three siblings, Alark, Janduin, and Marina. And she's holding the one power constantly in his channel since early childhood. And kind of fast forward, and Padra says the dragon's peace does not apply to the Aiel, and they will attack any Shanchan who come too close to their camp. Because at this point, Ronum is the son of Ruark and is now the clan chief of the Tardod Aiel. So that seems to be completely indicative of a future from the time that we're reading now.
That is
And
So
to have the clan
here's
chiefs
what I think
agreed
we need to
that
do.
all leave except Padra and Ronum. He is 10 years older and remembers Rand from Cold Rock's hold. And Ruark told him that Rand was clever and a great leader, but he did not know what to do with the Aiel. He planned for the other nations, but left the Aiel to drift. Because I believe this is what brings up the thing of you cannot exclude the Aiel or the Shanchan from the Dragon's Peace if it is to succeed.
indeed.
So here's what I would say. I would say that we have covered Avienda pretty well because we've basically captured the essence and or character
Yeah.
of Avienda.
I mean,
I really think we do. I
if
think
you
we've
talk
done a
about what we
pretty good
haven't
job of
covered,
that.
Avienda is there at the last battle. And when the
I
body
think-
shift happens, I mean, she I can't remember the extent of her participation. But at any
Right.
rate, she is there
I
at Rand's
think-
funeral pyre and is among the three that are like, he ain't dead. We cool,
Yes.
bruh.
No, we good. It's all good. No, I think it might be good. It might be productive to do a third part for Avienda. However, before anybody jumps in there, I would like to hear your comments as a listener. I would like to hear your comments. Should we do a third part of Avienda where we discuss her visions in the crystal columns? Or should we move on to something else? Let us know. Email us at blacktowerpod.com blacktowerpod@gmail.com. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. shoot us a message on Twitter, tag us on Twitter, or shoot us a DM on Twitter, or shoot a post on your own personal platform and put in hashtag
Yep. As you're
Dragonsworn
listening to this,
and let
if you're
us
listening
know.
to this on Friday the 3rd of 2020, this is your last day, last chance to get in those entries for that Dragon Sworn
Your last
giveaway.
moment.
But
That's right. Dragonsworn. Hashtag Dragonsworn giveaway. A first edition, first print copy of Fires of Heaven and some other little bonus surprise as
hey, Josh,
well. So please.
our Twitter Mahel, what do you think? So obviously
Yeah.
the cutoff for the Dragonsworn entries is the close of business, whatever you want to call it, timestamp ish for Friday. We're counting everything on Saturday, correct? The 4th.
Midnight Eastern Daylight Time, Friday into Saturday.
So we're
30th.
counting the entries.
So Friday
on
night.
Saturday.
So
what if we took Sunday
anything
and did a poll on Twitter? And if there's a way to do a poll on Instagram, maybe microphone cut out. Okay, there we go. Microphone cut back in. There we go. Thank you, microphone. Behave, please.
Hey, welcome back.
If we can do a poll on Instagram of sorts, I think we can through the story.
You can't do polls on Instagram.
You cannot.
Can't we do
You
yes
can.
no questions on at least the story for Instagram? I think we can. So we'll do that. So
That is correct.
we'll use the yes no to some extent, and that'll be entirely up to Daniel for how it's worded, and whether we do multiples of them or whatever. But how about Sunday running 24 hours? We do a poll on if we do a part 3 on Aviendha, and if we do, that part 3 takes on a more philosophical tone instead of a quasi historical tone of Aviendha's physical kind of what she does and everything through the books, and instead we talk about the philosophies, whatever, around Aviendha. You know, what do her visions and her first trip into Riodon and second trip into Riodon mean, and other things of that nature. Why don't we let the fans decide that? Because I feel like if we don't do something on the philosophical side on Aviendha, on what everything means that she sees, then as far as an analysis of Aviendha, what's happened, we've talked so much about her character and the events she's a part of, that without going more philosophical on what it means for her to see what she sees in the 3 rings and the 3, or not in the 3 columns, but in the crystal columns, then I don't know how much more there is for us to talk about. So does that sound good with both of you gentlemen?
I'm good. I'm
Sure.
definitely. Instead of Gandalf saying "Let the ring bearer decide," I am now as the Sorovan Mahale. I'm saying, "Let the fans decide," or "Let the listeners decide." It sounds a bit arrogant to say "Let the fans decide." I know we have fans, but I'm gonna say let the listeners decide because it sounds
we're
a little
all
bit
fans
humble,
of the Wheel of Time. But for those of you that listen to this
Agreed.
Tainty weekly broadcast, we want you to decide:
Yes.
do we continue to talk about Aviendha from a 99% more likely philosophical standpoint, or do we move on? I can't guarantee it, but in my opinion, if you want us to move on from Aviendha, that does not mean that the next episode will be Rand. You guys are familiar with how we kind of generally do things. We do individual topics on individuals involved in a relationship.
We just go crazy, man.
And
We just
then
go crazy.
we do the whole relationship, which if we were doing that right now would mean the next episode is Rand. I don't think the next episode should be Rand because I think we should pick a more abstract topic to get away from the myriad of character dives that we've done. Not that there's anything wrong, but variety's sake. I think. Do you guys think that's a good idea, or do you think maybe next episode should be Rand?
I think it's awesome. I'm down. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to write this poll
What do you think,
already,
Guidon
son.
Bear? You lead the charge.
Guidon better.
I don't have strong feelings either way, so I'm
The
down
Guidon's
for
good
whatever.
with whatever the fans decide.
So that sounds good. That sounds great. That sounds wonderful. Thank you
And
so
I want to
much
be
for tuning in. Thank you
I
so
want
much
to
for
be clear
listening.
with our fans and everything. Like, just in case it looked or sounded like maybe we were getting at each other, we aren't. This is how we are when we get into good discussions. Right?
I was about to say, I think we need to find more things that we disagree on because this was
I mean,
actually
I
a lot
don't
more
think any
fun.
part of it was any of us getting at each other or getting annoyed with each other. I mean, it may still happen. I'm not gonna lie about that. It may happen.
Oh, I
But at the end of
genuinely
the day,
hope it
we're
does.
still the boys in black. We're still Ashaman. We still love each other. So
Boys are black and
I edited that out
The
of the
boys,
last fucking episode. God damn it.
the boys are black. The boys are black. I don't think that one works,
I
Daniel.
don't know. I'll leave it in this one,
Oh,
and if the fans think that it's inappropriate, they'll let us know. Or the listeners, not the fans. Sorry, the listeners.
Well, what was the? There was a joke by Ricky Gervais, or a quote by Ricky Gervais, and he was like, "You've got to stop saying you can't joke about that. You absolutely can joke about that, and then people get to decide on whether or not they enjoyed that, and if they didn't, they get to tell you about that, and then you get to decide if you cared about it or not. It's a great system."
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
Ricky
part of what
Gervais,
makes the Black Tower
genius.
podcast as mediocrely decent as it is that we don't, all three of us, always agree on everything that happens, and I love it. I love it whenever we have
True
discussions
that.
like this. I mean, don't get me wrong; they probably catch us as much off guard as they do anybody else. Because we don't talk about this necessarily, or at least the subjects that we wind up disagreeing on before we record. It's not like, all right, and at an hour and 50 minutes, Daniel, we need you to disagree with Josh and I. And no, it's
You know, Andrew, I think I actually disagree with that statement. I think
just
we
based on
actually
the
do
script.
that.
Good,
Good
right
job.
on cue.
Good job.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. You got your cues.
But just as much as we love
Thank
each
you
other,
so
we love
much
you
for
guys.
listening.
Go ahead, Josh.
We
Indeed.
do love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are awesome. We love the interactions on Twitter. We love the interactions on Instagram. We love the interactions here. And speaking of which, I would like to remind you we do have an Instagram. We do have a
Yes.
Twitter. We do have a YouTube. Daniel, tell
And
them where they can find us on Instagram.
You can actually find us at Black Tower Pod on Instagram.
It's true.
And if you are actually paying attention to our Instagram right now, I mean, not right this second necessarily, but in general, there's actually a video up of a new hashtag that we started called Ashaman Read. And you should definitely go participate in that because it's super fun.
Do you know what I
And,
love about that hashtag? It sounds like military cadence. I could just hear when you proposed that originally, I could hear someone being like, Ashaman Read, and like it
I need to
made
get
me
my
so
tattoo
happy.
fixed from
Yes,
Ashaman
well,
Kill
and
to Ashaman Read.
well, and again, that's one of the reasons that I love the just Ashaman kill line.
It's a
Both
beautiful
because it just brings chills right up my spine, but also because it can just literally be turned into anything. So like Ashaman read, Ashaman sing, Ashaman dance, whatever the
Ashaman,
fuck you want.
come.
It's Ashaman.
That's the
Do
command. That's the command.
Okay, maybe not that one.
That's the command. You wanna proceed the command?
He
Yeah,
who lives
that's
by
it
his
right there.
brothers comes by his brothers. Ashaman
Okay.
fire.
Okay, so the rum is working for Andrew.
Okay, cool.
Andrew.
I
Wow.
Good
magically can
God. Okay,
sing now.
thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. It is quite clear we're done
Not that
for
bad, I
the
mean, come on.
evening. So, in all fairness and happiness, I am Josh. I have been your Sorovan Mahale.
And I am Andrew, and I have been your Bajan Mahel.
And I am Daniel, and I carry the flag. And from all of us here at the Black Tower, we hope that you've had a lovely and wonderful morning. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.